The massive shadow fell across human space like a dark blanket. Admiral Zexthak stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the fleet move into position. His forearms crossed behind his back as he studied the display screens. Thousands of ships spread out in perfect formation, each vessel designed to strike fear into any species that dared to look upon them. The Galactic Empire had spent 300 years perfecting this moment. Every ship in the fleet served a purpose beyond mere warfare. They were instruments of terror, crafted to break the spirit of enemies before a single shot was fired. The lead vessels looked like massive skulls floating through space. Their eye sockets glowed with red energy that pulsed like a heartbeat. Behind them came ships shaped like giant spiders, their metal legs reaching out into the void. Others resembled the nightmare creatures from a dozen different worlds. Each design pulled from the deepest fears of conquered species. Zexthak's personal favorite was the Devourer. The ship looked like an enormous mouth with rows of metal teeth. When it opened its hangar bay, it appeared to be swallowing smaller vessels whole. The effect had caused 3 separate species to surrender without firing a single weapon. "Sir, we are in position," reported his communications officer. The young alien's scales shifted from blue to purple, with nervousness. Even his own crew felt uncomfortable around the Intimidation fleet. "Excellent. Open a channel to the human vessels." The forward screen activated, showing the human fleet ahead. Their ships looked ordinary compared to the Empire's monsters. Simple metal hulls with basic weapon systems. Nothing fancy or frightening about them. Zexthak almost felt sorry for them. The human flagship appeared on screen. The bridge looked clean and bright. Nothing like the dark, imposing command centers the Empire preferred. A human in a blue uniform sat in the captain's chair. He had dark hair and calm eyes that showed no fear. "I am Admiral Zexthak of the Galactic Empire," the alien commander announced. "You stand before the Intimidation fleet of the Fifth Dominion. These vessels have witnessed the surrender of 47 different species. Your resistance ends now." The human captain leaned forward slightly. His name appeared on the screen as Captain Minjun Park. "Admiral, this is Captain Park of the human vessel Defiant Dawn. We've received your message." Zexthak waited for the fear to show. Every species reacted the same way. First came the wide eyes as they saw the nightmare ships, then the trembling voices as they tried to negotiate. Finally, the desperate pleas for mercy. Instead, Captain Park turned to speak with someone off-screen. "Communications? Are you getting this? They actually built flying skulls." A voice from somewhere on the human bridge replied, "Sir, the design specifications are incredible. Look at the detail work on those eye sockets." Zexthak felt his confidence slip slightly. These humans were supposed to be terrified. Every psychological profile indicated they should be begging for mercy by now. Instead, they seemed to be having a technical discussion about ship design. "Captain Park?" Zexthak tried again, raising his voice. "Perhaps you do not understand. These ships represent the darkest fears of your species. Surrender now, or face the consequences." Captain Park looked back at the screen. For a moment, Zexthak thought he might have gotten through to the human. Then Park did something completely unexpected. He smiled. "Admiral, I have to ask," Park said. "Did someone on your design team actually watch old Earth horror movies? Because that skull ship looks exactly like something from a film called Ghost Ship of Terror. My grandfather used to watch those on Saturday afternoons." Confused murmuring came from across Zexthak's bridge. His psychological warfare specialists looked at their instruments in confusion. The readings made no sense. Where they should have detected terror, fear, and desperation, they found amusement. "Sir," one of his officers whispered, "the humans are broadcasting on multiple frequencies. It sounds like celebration?" Zexthak listened to his communications equipment. The humans were indeed broadcasting, but not the desperate surrender messages he expected. Instead, their voices carried excitement and what could only be described as joy. "Oh wow, check out the spider ships." Someone took the time to make them look properly scary. That's dedication. "Are those supposed to be zombie vessels? The detail work is amazing." Captain Park's voice cut through the chatter. "Admiral, on behalf of the human fleet, I want to thank you for this display. It's been years since we've seen such commitment to the aesthetic of intimidation. Your artists and engineers clearly put a lot of work into this." 1. Zexthak's mandibles clicked together in confusion. "Captain, these ships are meant to terrify you into submission." "Oh. They're definitely scary." "Ax's way." "Radder." "Redder," Park agreed. "In a fun way. Like a really good haunted house or monster movie. The red glow effect is particularly nice. How did you get it to pulse like that?" The alien admiral looked around his bridge. His officers stared back with equal confusion. In 3 centuries of conquest, nothing like this had ever happened. Species were supposed to flee in terror or surrender in desperation. They were not supposed to ask about special effects. "The humans are taking detailed scans of our vessels," reported his sensor officer. "They're what?" "Active scans, sir. Very thorough ones. It appears they're studying our ship designs." From the human communications, more voices could be heard discussing the Empire fleet, with what sounded like genuine appreciation for the craftsmanship. They talked about color schemes, lighting effects, and structural design with the enthusiasm of art critics at a museum. Captain Park leaned back in his chair, still smiling. "Admiral, I'm curious about something. Have these intimidation tactics worked well for you in the past?" "Of course," Zexthak replied automatically. "No species has ever resisted the psychological impact of the intimidation fleet." "Interesting," Park mused. "Well, Admiral, we appreciate the show. These ships are really impressive, but I'm afraid we're not going to be surrendering today. Would you like to discuss terms for a peaceful resolution instead?" Zexthak felt something he had never experienced in his long military career. For the first time in 300 years of conquest, the intimidation fleet had failed completely. Not only had it failed, but the enemy seemed to be enjoying it. The admiral's confidence cracked as he realized that everything his civilization knew about psychological warfare might be completely wrong when it came to humans. Admiral Zexthak paced across his bridge, his forearms gesturing wildly as he tried to understand what was happening. The human fleet had not only refused to surrender, but they seemed to be having some kind of party. Their communications channels buzzed with excitement instead of fear. "Sir, we're intercepting more human transmissions," his communications officer reported. They're sharing the images of our ships with their friends." "They're doing what?" "Broadcasting pictures of our intimidation fleet to other human vessels throughout the sector. The responses are unusual." End quote. Zexthak listened as his translation software tried to make sense of the human communications. Phrases like "absolutely epic" and "someone's budget was unlimited" came through clearly. Other comments made no sense at all. Did they seriously make a ship that looks like Cthulhu? That's not Cthulhu. That's more like a generic space monster. Either way, it's awesome. I'm taking screenshots. The alien admiral turned to his chief psychological warfare specialist. "Dr. Veltar, explain this reaction. Your report said humans would respond with terror to our appearance." Dr. Veltar, a thin creature with 6 eyes, checked her instruments again. Her readings showed confusion. "Sir, the psychological profiles were based on standard mammalian fear responses. All previous species have reacted as predicted. I cannot explain this anomaly." On the main screen, Captain Park was speaking with his own crew. The humans moved around their bridge with casual confidence, showing none of the stress responses the Empire expected. One officer was actually pointing at the Empire's ships and laughing. "Captain, Park's communications officer said. "We're getting messages from the Second Fleet. They want to know if they can come watch the light show." "Tell them to maintain position," Park replied. "But yes, they can observe from a safe distance." Zek couldn't believe what he was hearing. The humans were treating his terrifying war fleet like some kind of entertainment display. A new voice came over the human channels. "This is Commander Sarah Chen aboard Iron Will. Admiral, I have to say, your design team really knows their stuff. That ship that looks like a giant bat is incredible. The wingspan proportions are perfect." Another human voice joined in. "The detail work on the skull ships is amazing too. Someone actually carved individual teeth into those jaw sections. And the color coordination? The red and black theme works really well across the whole fleet." Zek felt his confidence crumbling. His species had conquered most of the galaxy, using fear as their primary weapon. The sight of the Intimidation fleet had caused entire civilizations to surrender without a fight. But these humans were critiquing his ships like they were looking at artwork. Dr. Veltar approached carefully. "Sir, I'm beginning to think we may have a fundamental misunderstanding of human psychology." "What do you mean?" "Well, sir, I've been listening to their conversations. They keep referencing something called movies and horror films. It appears humans deliberately create frightening images for entertainment purposes." Zek stared at his specialist. "They create fear? For fun?" "It seems so, sir. They appear to have an entire industry dedicated to creating scary stories and images. They actually seek out frightening experiences as a form of recreation." This information made no sense to the Admiral. Every species the Empire had encountered feared the unknown, the dangerous, the threatening. It was a basic survival instinct. How could any creature deliberately seek out frightening experiences? Captain Park's voice came through the communications again. "Admiral Zek, I'm curious about something. How long did it take to build this fleet? The coordination between ship designs must have required incredible planning." This is not a casual conversation, Captain," Zek replied, trying to regain control of the situation. "These ships represent the might of the Galactic Empire." "Oh, absolutely," Park agreed. "The message is very clear. But from an engineering perspective, I'm impressed by the commitment to theme. Usually, military fleets prioritize function over form." Commander Chen's voice joined the conversation. "Captain Park, look at ship designation 774. It's designed to look like a massive spider, but the legs actually serve as weapon platforms. It's both scary and functional." "Good eye, Commander. That's practical design work." Zek felt like he was losing his mind. The humans were analyzing his Intimidation fleet like they were studying museum pieces. They discussed technical specifications, artistic choices, and engineering solutions with genuine interest. His tactical officer approached nervously. "Sir, the humans have requested permission to take detailed scans of our ships." "They want to what?" "They say they're interested in the construction techniques, something about adding to their design database." Dr. Veltar checked her readings again. "Sir, I'm detecting something else. The human stress levels are actually decreasing as they observe our fleet." "That's impossible." "No, sir. It's quite clear. Where other species become more frightened over time, the humans are becoming more comfortable. They're treating our ships like a familiar experience." Zek realized his civilization's greatest strategic advantage was not just failing against humans. It was having the opposite effect entirely. Instead of breaking their spirit, the Intimidation fleet was actually boosting human morale. Captain Park leaned forward on his screen. "Admiral, can I make a suggestion? These ships are impressive, but intimidation tactics probably won't work on humans. We've been dealing with scary things our whole lives. It's kind of our thing." "What do you mean, your thing?" "Well, we come from a planet full of dangerous creatures, Storms that can level cities, predators that hunt in packs, diseases that kill without warning. We learn to cope by making scary things into entertainment. When something tries to frighten us, our first reaction is usually to figure out how it was made. Park gestured toward the Empire fleet. Your ships are genuinely impressive works of art. But to us, they look like really good movie props. We're more likely to appreciate the craftsmanship than run away in terror. Zexthak felt the foundation of his military strategy crumbling beneath him. Everything his species believed about warfare, about dominance, about psychological superiority, was proving useless against these strange humans. The Admiral realized he was facing something his empire had never encountered before. A species that was immune to fear-based tactics not because they were fearless, but because they had turned fear itself into entertainment. Captain Minjun Park stood up from his command chair and walked to the front of his bridge. Behind him, his crew worked with calm efficiency, completely unimpressed by the Empire's intimidating display. Park looked out at the alien fleet and made a decision that would change galactic politics forever. Communications. Open a channel to all human ships in the sector. Channel open, sir. All vessels. This is Captain Park. The Empire has shown us their style. I think it's time we showed them ours. Begin Operation Costume Party. Across the human fleet, crews started laughing and cheering. They had been waiting for this order since the Empire ships first appeared. Every human vessel began activating systems that the aliens had never seen before. Admiral Zexthak watched in confusion as the human ships started to change. The first transformation was subtle, lights appearing along the hull of the Defiant Dawn. Then the lights formed patterns, creating the outline of what looked like an ancient sailing ship from Earth's past. "What are they doing?" Zexthak demanded. "Unknown, sir," his sensor officer replied. "They appear to be activating some kind of holographic projection system." The Iron Will was next. Commander Chen's ship shimmered and transformed into what appeared to be a massive haunted house, complete with glowing windows and fake fog drifting around its hull. Another human vessel became a giant rubber duck, bright yellow against the darkness of space. Within minutes, the entire human fleet had transformed. Some ships looked like pirate vessels with skull and crossbones flags. Others resembled castles, amusement park rides, or creatures that made no sense to alien eyes. One ship appeared to be a giant coffee mug, with steam rising from the top. Dr. Veltar stared at her instruments in complete bewilderment. "Sir, I have no idea how to analyze this. What is the tactical purpose of disguising a warship as a rubber duck?" Captain Park's voice came over the communications again, but now he sounded amused rather than diplomatic. "Admiral, you showed us scary. We thought we'd show you silly. Human psychological warfare tends to go in a different direction." "This is psychological warfare?" Zexthak asked. "In a way," Park replied. "See, humans learned long ago that the best way to deal with something scary is to make it funny. We take serious situations and find ways to laugh at them. It helps us stay calm under pressure." The human ship that looked like a haunted house suddenly activated sound systems. Spooky music began playing across all frequencies, followed by recorded screams and the sound of chains rattling. But instead of being frightening, it sounded like something from a children's Halloween party. Commander Chen's voice joined the conversation. "Admiral, your ships are very impressive, but they remind us of entertainment we create for children during our Halloween festival. We dress up as monsters and scary creatures for fun." "You dress as monsters? For fun?" Zexthak could barely process this information. "Oh yes," Chen continued. "The scarier the better. Kids love it. Your skull ships would be very popular at a Halloween party." Another human captain joined the conversation. "Admiral, I'm Captain James Kim aboard the Big Bad Wolf. I have to ask, did your species ever develop comedy? Because this whole situation is pretty funny from our perspective." The ship called Big Bad Wolf was now disguised as what appeared to be a giant wolf head with glowing red eyes. But instead of looking threatening, it looked cartoonish and friendly. Zexthak turned to Dr. Veltar. "Doctor, please explain to me how disguising warships as children's toys constitutes psychological warfare. I believe, sir, that the humans are demonstrating their lack of fear by mocking our intimidation tactics. They're showing us that they don't take our threats seriously. But why the ridiculous disguises?" Captain Park answered as if he had heard the question. "Admiral, humans have a saying. If you can't beat them, join them. Since you wanted to play dress-up with scary ships, we decided to play dress-up too. But our version is more festive." The human fleet began moving into new formations, but instead of military precision, they arranged themselves to look like a parade. The rubber duck took the lead, followed by the pirate ships and the haunted house. The coffee mug brought up the rear, steam still rising from its rim. "This is not how warfare is supposed to work," Zexthak muttered. His tactical officer approached nervously. "Sir, our psychological warfare specialists are requesting permission to retreat to sickbay. They say the situation is causing them mental distress." "Mental distress?" "Yes, sir. Doctor, Veltar's entire team is experiencing what they call cognitive dissonance. Their understanding of fear-based psychology is completely contradicted by what they're observing." Dr. Veltar herself looked pale and shaky. "Sir, I've spent my entire career studying fear responses in different species. What the humans are doing should be impossible. They're not just unafraid. They're actively enjoying a situation that should terrify them." Captain Park's voice came through again. "Admiral, we appreciate the effort you put into those scary ships. But humans have been dealing with frightening things for thousands of years. We've learned to laugh at what scares us. It's how we stay sane on a planet that's constantly trying to kill us." "Your planet tries to kill you?" "Oh yes," Park said cheerfully. "Earthquakes, hurricanes, volcanoes, poisonous animals, deadly diseases, extreme temperatures. Earth is what we call a death world. Living there taught us that the best way to deal with danger is to find the humor in it." Commander Chen added, "We have entire entertainment industries based on creating scary situations for fun. Horror movies, haunted attractions, extreme sports. If something doesn't actually kill us, we tend to find it entertaining." The human ship disguised as a castle suddenly launched fireworks from its towers. They exploded in colorful patterns against the darkness of space, spelling out words like "welcome" and "happy Halloween" in multiple languages. Zexthak felt his worldview collapsing. His species had built an empire on the foundation that fear was universal, that all intelligent life would submit to superior psychological pressure. But humans didn't just resist fear. They transformed it into celebration. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving a transmission from High Command. They're asking for a status report on the intimidation protocol." Zexthak stared at the human fleet, now arranged in a festive parade formation with party music playing across multiple frequencies. How could he explain to High Command that their ultimate psychological weapon had been turned into a joke? "Tell them," he said slowly, "that we may need to reconsider our approach to human relations." Captain Park's voice came through one final time. "Admiral, this has been fun, but we should probably discuss actual negotiations now. Unless you'd like to continue the costume party? We've got more disguises ready to go." Admiral Zexthak had reached his breaking point. The humans had made a mockery of his intimidation fleet, turned his psychological warfare into entertainment, and somehow managed to maintain complete control of the situation while dressed as cartoon characters. It was time to show them what real military power looked like. "Enough games," he announced across all frequencies. "Human fleet, you have demonstrated your immunity to psychological warfare. Now face the true might of the Galactic Empire. All ships, drop intimidation protocols, and prepare for combat. The massive alien vessels began to change. The skull ships revealed weapon ports hidden behind the eye sockets. The spider ships extended their legs to show the plasma cannons mounted along their length. The Devourer opened its mouth wide, revealing rows of missile launchers designed to look like teeth. Captain Park's voice came back, but now it carried a different tone. The amusement was still there, but something else had joined it. Something that made Admiral Zexthak suddenly uncomfortable. "Admiral," Park said, and there was something almost predatory in his voice. "Are you sure you want to escalate this to actual combat? You have left me no choice, Captain. Your species refuses to submit to proper authority." "I see." Park paused for a moment. "Well, if you insist. All human vessels. The Empire wants to play a different game now. Drop the costumes and show them what we brought to this party." Across the human fleet, the holographic disguises disappeared. The rubber duck, the haunted house, the pirate ships, all vanished to reveal the vessels hidden beneath. What Admiral Zexthak saw made his blood run cold. The human ships had never been the simple, basic vessels he thought he was looking at. Beneath the silly holograms were warships unlike anything in the Empire's database. Sleek, deadly, and covered with weapon systems that seemed to bend the laws of physics. What are those ships?" Zexthak whispered. "These," Captain Park replied, "are what humans build when we're not trying to be funny." The Defiant Dawn revealed itself as a vessel that looked like it had been designed by someone who understood war at a fundamental level. Its hull was covered in weapons that could rotate and pivot in ways that should have been impossible. Energy readings from the ship made no sense according to Empire science. Commander Chen's iron will was even more impressive. The ship bristled with defensive systems that created overlapping fields of protection. But more than that, it moved through space with a grace that suggested its pilot understood three-dimensional combat better than any Empire captain. "Sir," Zexthak's sensor officer reported, "I'm reading weapon systems that don't match any known technology. And their ship designs. They're not following standard engineering principles." Dr. Veltar, who had been studying the humans throughout the encounter, approached the Admiral with a worried expression. "Sir, I think I understand what we're seeing." "Explain." "The humans weren't just immune to our psychological warfare, they were analyzing us the entire time. While we thought we were intimidating them, they were studying our ships, our tactics, our responses. They've been gathering intelligence." Captain Park's voice confirmed her fears. "Admiral, while you were trying to scare us, we were learning everything we could about your fleet. Your ship designs, weapon placements, crew numbers, tactical formations. You showed us all your cards, while we kept ours hidden. The human fleet began to move, and their formation was nothing like the parade they had arranged before. These were the movements of predators, ships that had been designed by a species that understood combat not as a game of fear, but as a deadly, serious art form. You see, Admiral," Park continued, "humans approach warfare differently than most species. We don't try to intimidate our enemies into submission. We study them, learn their weaknesses, and then we adapt. Your species conquered the galaxy through fear. We conquered our own planet through evolution." Lieutenant Commander Kim's voice joined the conversation from his ship, which had revealed itself as a vessel covered in sensors and communication arrays. "Admiral, we've been sharing tactical data across our entire fleet since the moment you arrived. Every ship in our formation now knows the exact specifications of every ship in yours." Admiral Zexthak felt panic rising in his chest. "This is impossible. Our ships are superior in every way. We have size, numbers, advanced weaponry." "You have size," Park agreed. "But humans learned long ago that size isn't everything. We come from a world where the most dangerous predators aren't always the biggest ones. Sometimes the small, smart, fast creatures are the ones you need to worry about." The human ships began to demonstrate their capabilities. They moved through space in ways that defied Empire understanding of physics. They coordinated their movements with precision that suggested a level of tactical communication beyond anything the Empire had developed. "Your ships are impressive, Admiral," Commander Chen observed. "But they're designed to be scary, not practical. All those spikes and threatening features, they create weak points in your armor. Those glowing red lights, they're excellent targets for precision weapons. Your ships prioritize intimidation over protection." Dr. Veltar checked her instruments again and made a disturbing discovery. "Sir, the humans aren't just immune to psychological warfare. They've weaponized their immunity." "Juan, what do you mean?" "While we were trying to frighten them, they were studying us psychologically. They know exactly how we think, how we fight, how we respond to pressure. They've turned our own psychological tactics back against us." Captain Park's voice carried that predatory tone again. "Admiral, your species conquered the galaxy because everyone else was afraid of you. But humans aren't afraid of scary-looking ships. We're afraid of competent enemies. And right now, you've shown us that underneath all the intimidating appearance, your tactics are actually quite predictable." The human fleet completed their formation change. They now surrounded the Empire fleet in a pattern that looked random, but clearly wasn't. Every human ship had positioned itself to cover multiple Empire vessels, while remaining protected by overlapping fields of fire from their allies. "This is your last chance, Admiral," Park said. "You can withdraw your fleet, and we can discuss this situation diplomatically. Or you can discover why humans are the only species in the galaxy that deliberately seeks out dangerous situations for entertainment." Admiral Zexthak looked around his bridge. His crew, who had been confident in their superiority just minutes ago, now showed signs of the same fear they had tried to instill in others. The humans had turned the tables completely, revealing that beneath their laughter and silly games lay the tactical minds of apex predators. For the first time in his career, Admiral Zexthak was truly afraid. Admiral Zexthak stared at the tactical display showing his fleet completely outmaneuvered by the humans. Every instinct told him to fight, to use his superior numbers and firepower to crush these upstart creatures. But something in Captain Park's voice had changed his mind. It wasn't just confidence. It was the calm certainty of someone who already knew how the fight would end. "All Empire ships, stand down," he ordered quietly. "Maintain position, but do not engage." His tactical officer looked shocked. "Sir." "Numbers mean nothing if the enemy has already won," Zexthak replied. "Open a direct channel to Captain Park." The human captain appeared on screen, no longer smiling but not hostile either. He looked like someone waiting patiently for his opponent to make the smart choice. "Admiral," Park said simply. "Captain Park, I request a direct meeting, ship to ship. I need to understand what happened here." "Of course. You're welcome aboard the Defiant Dawn, or I can come to your vessel." "I will come to you." An hour later, Admiral Zexthak found himself in the human ship's conference room. The space was bright and clean, with no attempt at intimidation or display of power. Captain Park sat across from him with several other human officers. They looked like ordinary people, not the terrifying warriors he had expected. "Admiral," Park began. "First, let me say that your intimidation fleet is genuinely impressive. The engineering work alone represents decades of effort. But it failed completely," Zexthak said. "Not failed. It just didn't work on humans." Park leaned forward. "Admiral, can I ask you something? How many species submitted to your intimidation tactics without any resistance at all?" "Most of them. Perhaps 80% surrendered immediately upon seeing the fleet. And the other 20%? They fought bravely, but were eventually conquered through superior firepower and tactics." Park nodded. "That's what I thought. Your species developed a very effective strategy. Create such overwhelming psychological pressure that most enemies surrender before fighting even begins. For the ones that don't, you have superior technology and numbers. Dr. Veltar, who had joined the meeting, spoke up. But humans don't respond to fear the way other species do. No, we don't, agreed Commander Chen. We evolved on a planet where being afraid all the time would have driven us insane. We learned to cope with constant danger by finding ways to laugh at it, study it, and eventually master it. Park pulled up a display showing images from Earth. Zexthak studied the images. A beautiful planet with diverse environments. Look closer. Those beautiful environments include volcanoes that can destroy entire continents, storms that generate more energy than your largest weapons, predators that hunt in coordinated packs, and diseases that can kill millions. More images appeared. These are some of our entertainment media. We create stories about monsters, disasters, alien invasions, and apocalyptic scenarios. Then we watch them for fun. You create fear. For entertainment, Zexthak said slowly. Exactly. When we saw your ships, our first thought wasn't terror. It was, wow, someone actually built the monster ships from our movies. We've been imagining scary spaceships for hundreds of years. Your fleet looked familiar. Dr. Veltar checked her notes. Captain, during our psychological analysis, we detected something unusual. Your stress levels actually decreased when you saw our intimidation fleet. Of course they did, Chen replied. Seeing familiar shapes and designs made us feel more comfortable, not less. It was like meeting old friends. Park continued the explanation. Admiral, your strategy works perfectly against species that haven't been exposed to their worst fears as entertainment. But humans seek out scary experiences. We ride roller coasters that simulate falling to our deaths. We watch movies about monsters that want to eat us. We play games where we fight impossible odds. Your intimidation fleet wasn't threatening to us, added Lieutenant Commander Kim, who had joined the meeting. It was nostalgic. It reminded us of stories we loved as children. Zexthak felt his understanding of warfare shifting. So when we tried to frighten you, you accidentally gave us a show that reminded us of home. Park finished. It actually boosted our morale instead of breaking it. But your ships, Zexthak said. Your real ships. They're far more advanced than our intelligence suggested. Because you never saw our real ships, Chen explained. When other species meet us, we usually send diplomatic vessels or merchant ships. We save the warships for when we actually need them. Park pulled up tactical displays showing the Empire fleet surrounded by human vessels. Admiral, your ships are designed to be intimidating, but that compromises their tactical effectiveness. All those spikes and scary features create weak points. The dramatic lighting makes you visible to our sensors from much greater distances. Our ships are designed by people who understand that in real combat, looking scary is far less important than being effective, Kim added. Dr. Veltar spoke up again. Captain, I must ask, if humans are immune to intimidation tactics, how do you conduct psychological warfare? The humans exchanged glances, and Park smiled. We don't, usually. We prefer to avoid psychological warfare altogether. But when we do, use it. We make our enemies laugh, Chen finished. Humans learned that humor can be just as devastating as fear. When your enemy is laughing, they're not taking you seriously. And when they're not taking you seriously, they make mistakes. The costume party, Zexthak realized. Exactly. While you were trying to figure out why we thought your scary ships were funny, we were gathering intelligence and positioning our fleet. You were so confused by our reaction that you stopped thinking tactically. Park leaned back in his chair. Admiral, humans don't conquer through fear or intimidation. We succeed through adaptation, cooperation, and the ability to find solutions to impossible problems. Your intimidation fleet was an impossible problem, so we found a solution. which was, turn it into entertainment while we figured out how to beat you. Admiral Zek sat in silence for several minutes, processing everything he had learned. Finally, he spoke. Captain, what happens now? No. That depends on you, Admiral. We could fight, but I don't think either of us wants that. Or, we could discuss a peaceful resolution to this situation. What would humans want from the Empire? Park considered the question carefully. Mutual respect, trade relationships, cultural exchange, maybe some cooperation on scientific research. We're not interested in conquering anyone. You're not? Admiral. We come from a planet that spent thousands of years trying to kill us. The last thing we want is more conflict. We'd much rather figure out how to get along. Zek made a decision that would change galactic history. Captain Park, I would like to propose a treaty between the Galactic Empire and humanity. I think that can be arranged. As the meeting continued, Admiral Zek realized that humans had taught him something more valuable than fear. They had shown him that the strongest species weren't always the most intimidating ones. Sometimes, the strongest ones were the ones that could laugh at danger and find friendship in the face of hostility. Later, when he reported back to High Command, Admiral Zek would recommend a complete change in the Empire's approach to human relations. His report would include a new entry in the Galactic Species Database. Humans, immune to intimidation. Recommend humor and honesty instead of fear tactics. Warning: do not underestimate their military capabilities. But perhaps most importantly, his report would note: humans prefer friendship to conquest. Suggest we learn from their example.